Hello, I'm Brent Bowers, and you're listening to Brento's Budget Filmmaker Podcast. Today is -6. 6 days until active production of my short film, Take That. Today's topics are special effects, hands-on, and can you do it all? And then I'm going to get a little bit more into the specifics of my project. First, talking special effects, if you're into genre filmmaking, which is really my thing, and once again, I define genre filmmaking as works of speculative fiction such as vampire movies, werewolf movies. It can be comedy in the context of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, things that tend to have fanboys and girls attached to them. And in the case of my film, we're talking about basically a horror comedy, a vampire horror comedy. Special effects are almost always going to be needed on these things. If you're like me and you appreciate a good bit of CGI here and there, you probably can't afford good CGI. So the best way to go, I think, and really what ultimately most old school filmmakers feel looks better, myself included, would be practical special effects. Special effects, of course, being latex, makeup, dentures and contacts and physical things in the real world that you can go and put your hands on, not computer generated. Finding a makeup effects artist, a special effects artist, is really going to be tough because many times I have seen in the area two different kinds of folks that are indeed very talented and really have their craft down, but tend to take themselves a little too seriously with regards to their quotes and what they want to get paid, and also their own professionalism. Like, in other words, they present themselves as, here, this is very Hollywood, this is how we do it, and then you might pay what you feel is a very good price, and at the end of the day they'll have taken some sort of shortcut or not quite given you what you paid for. And then on the flip side of the spectrum is the kid out there that is like, yeah, man, I can totally do that. We can make you look just like Michael Jackson in Thriller, and then what, they clearly don't have the skill sets to do all of the work. Special effects work is a lot like filmmaking in itself. It's just multifaceted. There are different specialties within it that usually one guy won't be the master of all, and if he is, he's going to be extremely rare indeed. That said, I've found a couple of guys in the area that I've been able to work with, and I've gotten some pretty good results and some pretty good prices. But again, in most cases, the deliverable was delivered in such a way that I was like, wow, that's really awesome, but didn't I say, I needed this, kind of a thing. And then you just sort of have to adapt to what they've given you and to make it work. But in both cases, for me, it worked out really good ultimately. But this time, I've taken a different route to special effects. I'm using a special effects artist that I've worked with in the past. He's given me good stuff, but he's also failed to deliver on a couple of different occasions. And it's mostly from getting overwhelmed and not taking advantage of advance notice. So, I know you always want to give your artist plenty of time to do what you're asking them to do. And in the case of, things that involve making molds and all that, you want to give them months as opposed to weeks. But if you aren't there in person and you aren't constantly checking up on it, lots of times they'll use that time on other projects. Your project will come up and it's like, oh, hey, it's a rush. And you're like, hey, now you did get this thing, this opening mouth or whatever that I told you we had to have, right? Oh, I don't have time to do it that way now. We have to do it a different way. This is very common. So how do you combat that? Well, you combat it by having hands-on. Many makeup artists probably won't let you get involved, but if they will let you get involved, you're like, hey, can I come over there and help you make the molds, or can I, stir plaster pairs for you? It's not an ideal scenario because you're not going to be a specialist at this, and in some cases they might not even want you in the room. In my experience, the more often you can be there in person with a special effects artist, at least looking at what he's doing or checking up on what he's doing. You don't want to micromanage it, but in a sense you kind of need to. when you're talking like grassroots guerrilla level. Unless you're working like with somebody who won Face Off or something like that, this is completely different. But I'm not talking about that level. I'm talking about the run-of-the-mill level that you're able to get access to in your local area or region, and you may not have anybody. Most likely, though, there's going to be some drama clubs and stuff, and there's going to be somebody that can help you. If not, you might have to resort to store-bought appliances and kind of get the stuff from Morris Costumes online or Dapper Cadaver and sort of do it yourself, which is, I wouldn't recommend it. It's such a huge thing, and it could really make or break your project. So if you can get the budget together to get somebody who really specializes in special effects, I would recommend it. But just again, buyer beware, and keep your hands on that as much as you possibly can. This leads us into my next talking point. Can you do it all? Well, the answer for that is easy. No, you can't. You absolutely cannot be a dedicated director, cinematographer, choreographer, script supervisor, a gaffer. You cannot do all these roles. So you have to find people to help you. In my case, personally speaking, I like to work with a cinematographer. Like, that is optimal. I can certainly shoot my own stuff, no doubt about it. I have a camera that'll do it. Put a lot of money and time in to learn how to use that camera, and I think I can get by. I can get by with that. But if I can get my hands on a cinematographer who that is his thing, like that is his passion, and his work impresses me, that's the way I'm going to go every time. If I can afford it, that definitely is the way to go. So it really comes down to what you're comfortable with, One note is that usually you won't have as good a gear as somebody that's a dedicated cinematographer. You won't have as nice of lights, your camera gear and your lenses and whatnot, whether you're using an SLR or a camcorder, it's probably not going to be as nice. Usually, you can go as far as leasing a red camera and an operator, or you can just get your local guy that's the it guy for cinematography, which is what I did in the case of this film, and fire away. But you absolutely can't be great at all these things, and I think this is kind of like an area where a lot of really talented filmmakers, it's kind of their kryptonite. They don't see this, and it's a fact. You just absolutely cannot be great at everything. Focus on what you're great at. In the case of if you're a writer-director, I think that's more than enough to keep your hands full for a short film, let alone a feature film. So just my 2 cents on that. Okay, so where are we at with Take That? Well, is progressing as planned, but as usual, here we are the week of shooting, and there are things that still are not done. In my case, there's still several props to locate. Most of the props that we had to prepare, both with special effect and there's one furniture prop, I'd say they're all 90% done. The really big pieces of special effects are done, and there's a few pieces that are critical, but in a pinch, if we had to do without them, we could. I've still got to run around and scramble to find a few key props, smaller things, hopefully not too difficult to find. Most of the money that had to be spent has been spent on the bigger items, so I had hoped to I spent 1 day with special effects artists this weekend. I had hoped to spend 2, so I'm going to be down there this evening and taking care of business, hopefully getting us to the point where by our read through Thursday and dressing of the set Thursday night, we'll have everything that we need, and everything will go smoothly. One thing I've had to kind of neglect on this is wardrobe. I've just given the actors direction to kind of get their own wardrobe in most cases, except for one case where we had to purchase some wardrobe items. But several of the characters are kind of going to be dressing themselves with my direction, and I'm really hopeful that doesn't become a problem. And if it does, we'll just have to run out and buy some clothes, on the day of the shoot or whatever. But I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that. It's been a smooth process so far, but then again, we haven't actually shot anything yet. We're also doing some shooting of some test footage on Thursday night, which is something that I felt was really important, because there's sort of some some camera trickery involved in a couple of shots, and I didn't want to be stuck with a shot that wouldn't work out the way that I wanted. So I felt like it was critical. So look, set dressing Thursday night, and I know I'm not dating this. I should say day -2, but yeah, this is day -6. So day -2, we're doing all the test shooting and the read through and the set dressing. So that's about where we're at on Take That. And once again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on day -5, when we'll discuss using experts versus doing it yourself, using your own equipment versus borrowing/leasing someone else's, and other topics. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.